Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the September 24th, 2019 Pittsburgh Board of Public Education and Pittsburgh Mount Oliver Intermediate Unit Legislative Meeting. Before we begin this evening, I'd like everyone to please turn off cell phones or put them on vibrate. Would everyone please rise so we can salute the flag? I pledge allegiance As is our tradition and procedure before the legislative meeting, we would like to recognize students and employees of Pittsburgh Public School District. I will now turn this portion of the meeting over to Ms. Ebony Pugh.
Thank you, Mrs. Wren. At this time, I would like to invite Mrs. Evelyn Borghini-Nizer to please come up for a special board resolution. Whereas the School District of Pittsburgh has in place policy 801.1, naming of schools, which includes 801.1 administrative regulations, and 2 naming rights guidelines, which provides procedures for the district upon proper authorization by the board to recognize persons who have supported the district through distinguished effort by naming facilities such as playgrounds in their honor. And whereas the district recognizes Evelyn Borghini-Nizer and wishes to honor her distinguished service to the district by naming the playground at Pittsburgh Langley K-8 Elementary School, located at 2940 Sheridan Boulevard, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 15204 in her honor. And whereas Evelyn Borghini-Nizer is deserving of this recognition because of her many efforts on behalf of the district and her community, which include the following. Mrs. Nizer was born in Glendale, moved to Sheridan in 1951, and graduated from Langley High School in 1957. Ms. Nizer was one of the original members of the Sheridan Community Council. Ms. Nizer served on the Pittsburgh Board of Public Education from 1975, served for almost 20 years, was lauded as one of the few individuals to serve on both the appointed and elected school board, and her service included 1 term as president. Ms. Nizer also served on the Pennsylvania School Boards Association, the National School Boards Association, the Pittsburgh Interscholastic Athletic Association, and the Pennsylvania Interscholastic Association, demonstrating her dedicated support of students. Since her retirement from the board, Ms. Nizer has remained active as one of the founders of the Langley High School Alumni Association. She also serves as a founding member of the Sheridan Community Council. She was honored by the Kiwanis Club of Sheridan and the Sheridan Community Council. She continues to serve people of all ages in her community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Public Education of the School District of Pittsburgh authorizes the district to name the playground at Pittsburgh Langley K-8 in honor of Evelyn Borghini-Nizer in recognition of her support to the district and service to her community. And this was approved by the board on May 22nd, 2019. So. Okay. World language teachers at Pittsburgh Allardyce World language teachers at Pittsburgh Allardyce received the Pennsylvania State Modern Language Award, Golden Globe Exemplary Program Award this year for the 12th consecutive year. Please let's welcome Jennifer Felton, ITL. Zuping Chi. Melissa Donnelly. Isabel Espino de Valdivia. Jennifer McGonigal. Also at Pittsburgh Allardyce, okay, yeah. Okay. Also at Pittsburgh Allardyce, the Yale University office The Yale University Office of Undergraduate Admissions selected their school counselors as a recipient of the 2019 Yale Educator Award. The Yale class of 2023 were asked to nominate outstanding educators who have deeply impacted their lives. Mr. Hall was nominated for the award by recent graduate Gianna Griffin, then selected as a winner by a committee in the Office of the Undergraduate Admissions. Mr. Hall has been a school counselor with Pittsburgh Public Schools for 5 years. At Pittsburgh Allardyce for the past 3 years, Mr. Hall has a caseload of approximately 350 students. He also serves as the Pittsburgh Promise Liaison and the advisor for the school's African American Center for Advanced Studies Committee, which includes 200 students. Please let's welcome Mr. Anthony Hall. Okay. Earlier this month, a Pittsburgh SciTech student was experiencing a potentially serious medical emergency. Security officer James McKissick kicked right into action. Mom says he went above and beyond the call of duty to ensure that a student received appropriate medical attention. Even before the incident, Officer McKissick told the parents, "I'll look after her." The students' parents say it is the holistic approach to their daughter's education and safety that brings them comfort. Please let's welcome Officer James McKissick. At this time, I ask the board to please stay standing. We have a special presentation from Grow Pittsburgh to recognize a few of our students.
Hi. Oh, still handshaking. Wait. Rewind. Will everyone please take one step back towards the hall? I'll just do it first. They'll come back, I promise. Hi, everyone. I just want to, so we're about to see those lovely faces again, but I'm with the Pittsburgh Food Policy Council, and we have a few other representatives from Grow Pittsburgh also. We're here to present the winners of our inaugural Harvest of the Month poster competition, who we just saw briefly and who will return briefly. The poster competition was made possible by a grant from the United States Department of Agriculture, a Farm to School grant, and the purpose of Farm to School is to connect what students learn in their classroom to what they grow in their school garden, to what they see on their plate in the cafeteria. And the emphasis is always on healthy local food. So one of the ways PPS implements Farm to School is through Harvest of the Month, where they feature a fruit or vegetable each month of the school year. So for example, September was grape tomatoes, October will be peppers. And the lovely artwork is actually back here on this wall, if you haven't seen it. This fruit or vegetable appears in the salads and as a sample in the lunch line throughout its designated month. So these posters will hang, we've made copies of these posters and we have a larger calendar, and they'll hang in all of the PPS cafeterias. And they display fun facts about the fruits and vegetables and connect what the students are seeing to what is actually being served on their plate. So I'm turning it over, we're gonna talk a little bit about the Pittsburgh Food Policy Council and Grow Pittsburgh, and then we'll announce our winners.
Where's first place?
First place is the pepper. It's in the middle.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dawn Plummer. I serve as the Executive Director of the Pittsburgh Food Policy Council. We are a 10-year-old organization. We convene people who work in the food system, growers, farmers, food businesses, government, universities, nonprofits, many people who are concerned about our food and people and planet and our access to healthy food. And a lot of our work is to connect the dots between things like, basically, you know, children every year are understanding less and less about where our food comes from, what the role of food is in our bodies in terms of its connection to our health and those sorts of things. And so we've been working since 2006 with Pittsburgh Public School District. We worked to put together a assessment of our school food environment, which came with a set of recommendations, and one of those recommendations was to do the work that you see before you today and to engage families in the way that we have. So thank you so much for welcoming us, and I'll hand it over to Grow Pittsburgh.
Hello, everyone. My name is Adia Effiong, and I am the Director of School Garden Programs with Grow Pittsburgh. Grow Pittsburgh is a local nonprofit whose mission is to teach people how to grow. We work in farm education and production sites, community gardens, and most importantly, school gardens. We have a 14-year relationship with PPS and our gardens at their schools. 4 years ago, we were able to expand beyond the 4 to 6 schools that we were in to now include 25 schools that now have learning gardens across Pittsburgh Public Schools through a generous foundations, Hillman, Hines, and Arcane Mellon. And last year, we had an opportunity to run a pilot program that expanded to our early childhood centers located in the 5 different Pittsburgh Public Schools, which has been great. We're really excited about the kids being excited about the vegetables that they're growing, but more importantly, eating those vegetables, and I am excited about our winners here today. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Victoria Thurman from Grow Pittsburgh. I'm going to announce the winners now, one by one, and you can come and get your award. Ivana Chisholm, 11th grade Obama, drew a carrot for the December harvest of the month. Wins second place. Aisha Hart drew grape tomatoes, won third place. Gudrun Yeagert won third place for grape tomatoes. Sorry, yeah. Amare Williams won second place for a drawing of her dabbing strawberry. Perry High School. Deshauna Zollers won third place for a drawing of a sweet potato, 10th grade Perry High School. And Sawyer Eberhardt won third place for a drawing of broccoli, Concord Elementary. Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
This concludes this evening's presentation. Sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Pugh. We will begin first this evening with the Pittsburgh Mount Oliver Intermediate Unit. Mr. Weiss, may we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Carter? He's on the phone. What was that? Oh, my Lord. He's rapping. Ms. Edwards?
Here.
Ms. Falls?
Present.
Dr. Holly? Here. Mrs. Kalida?
Here.
Mrs. Kennedy?
Present.
Mr. Udine?
Here.
Ms. Wilson?
Here.
Ms. Wren?
Here. Thank you, Mr. Weiss.
Oh,
Thank you, Mr. Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Carter, you're here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Will board members please turn to the minutes from last month? Are there any corrections, additions, or deletions to the Pittsburgh Mount Oliver Intermediate Unit? If there are no questions or comments, I'd like to have a motion, a second, to approve the minutes of the August 28, 2019 legislative meeting for Pittsburgh Mount Oliver Intermediate Unit. So moved. Thank you, Ms. Falls. Thank you, Dr. Holly. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sides. The minutes stand approved. The committee report on business finance that includes agenda items 25.01 through 26.03 is before you. Are there any questions or comments that were not addressed in agenda review? If there are no questions or comments, do we have a motion and a second for a roll call vote?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Falls. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Mr. Weiss, may we please have a roll call vote?
Mr. Carter? Yes. Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Ms. Falls?
Yes.
Dr. Holly?
Yes.
Mrs. Kalida?
Yes.
Mrs. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Udine?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mrs. Wren?
Yes.
Items approved.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Item 27.01 is the Pittsburgh Mount Oliver Intermediate Unit Personnel Report. Are there any questions or comments on this report? If there are no questions or comments, do we have a motion, a second for a roll call?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Edwards. Thank you, Mr. Udine. Mr. Weiss, may we please have a roll call vote?
Mr. Carter? Yes. Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Ms. Falls?
Yes.
Dr. Holly?
Yes.
Mrs. Kalida?
Yes.
Mrs. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Udine? Yes. Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mrs. Wren?
Yes.
Items approved.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Item 28.01 is the Pittsburgh Mount Oliver Intermediate Unit Financial and Travel Report for August 2019. Are there any questions and comments on the report? If there are no questions and comments, I'd like to have a motion and a second to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Falls. Second. Thank you, Ms. Kalida. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Nay, same sign. This meeting's adjourned, sorry. Okay. I would like to call the September 24th, 2019 meeting of the Pittsburgh Public Schools to order. Mr. Weiss, may we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Carter? Ms. Edwards?
Here.
Ms. Falls?
Present.
Dr. Holly?
Yes.
Mrs. Kalida?
Here.
Here.
Mrs. Kennedy?
Present.
Mr. Udine?
Here.
Ms. Wilson?
Here.
Mrs. Wren?
Here.
All present.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. At this time, I'd like to ask Ms. Veronica Edwards to share our core beliefs and commitment.
Core beliefs and commitments. We will educate all children to their highest level of academic achievement. We will provide a safe and orderly environment for all students and employees. We will provide efficient and effective support for all students, families, teachers, and administrators. We will distribute resources in an efficient and equitable manner to address the needs of all students to the maximum extent feasible. We will improve public confidence and encourage strong parent community engagement in the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Edwards. Will board members please turn to the minutes? Tonight we will be approving the minutes for August 28, 2019 legislative session. Are there any corrections, additions, or deletions? I'd like a motion, a second, to approve the minutes of the August 28, 2019 legislative session.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy. Thank you, Dr. Holly. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. The meeting stand approved. At this time, I'd like to read the executive session statement. In addition to the executive sessions announced at the legislative meeting of August 28, 2019, the board met in executive sessions on September 18, 2019, and immediately before this legislative meeting to discuss various personnel matters that may include, but are not limited to, administrative vacancies and positions opened and closed. The board does not vote at executive session. The committee report on education and student performance is before you, submitted by Ms. Sylvia Wilson, chairperson, in her committee. The report includes agenda items 5.01 through 8.16. If you would please turn to agenda item 8.16, I'd like to give you the student suspension, transfer, and expulsion numbers for this month. 16 students were suspended for 4 to 10 days. 2 students expelled out of school for 11 days or more. There were no items pulled for further discussion at agenda review. If there are no further questions or comments, do we have a motion, a second, for a roll call vote on the committee report on education and student performance? Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Second. Thank you, Dr. Holly. Mr. Weiss, may we have a roll call vote on the committee report on education and student performance?
Mr. Carter? Yeah. Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Ms. Falls?
Yes.
Dr. Holly?
Yes.
Mrs. Kalida?
Yes.
Mrs. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Udine?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mrs. Wren?
Yes.
Item is approved.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. We'll now move on to the committee report on business, finance, and minority business enterprises that is before you, submitted by Mr. Salahuddin, chairperson, and his committee. The report includes agenda items 10.01 through 12.08. There are 2 items pulled for further discussion at the agenda review. We will begin with item 12.06, 23 and Railroad Lerda. Open for discussion. Mr. Joseph.
Item 12.06 is being pulled.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph. Okay, we will move on to item 12.07. That was also pulled for discussion. It's the item on the stacks. Ms. Kennedy?
I just like to find out from Mr. Weiss, can you please remind the board and the public of the criteria for determining if the board should approve a LERTA application from policy 705.1?
The criteria for LERTA approval and other such programs is contained in policy 705.1. There are 11 criteria. I'll summarize these. The project would not proceed without, it must be shown that the project would not proceed without the additional revenue source generated by the tax increment finance, or in this case, preferential assessment program. The applicant has to show there was a funding gap that will be resolved only by approval of this program. The site must be in a blighted area, which would be reversed by the project. The project would generate peripheral improvements not covered under the land assessment program. will provide additional revenue. The project will generate economic development that produces increased economic improvements, generating other revenues to the district. There'll be no reduction of the amount of revenue, if any, the district currently receives from the site as a result of the approval of the program. Any increase in tax millage will be applied to the current tax base. The project would attract or retain jobs in the district, which encompasses the city of Pittsburgh and the borough of Mount Oliver. The district will provide no more than the limits of Act 76 for LRTA programs. The city of Pittsburgh pledges part of its financing certain taxes it receives from the district. That doesn't apply here because this is a LRTA. And there is a 1% fee which has been satisfied. There are requirements for information submission. Also, the applicant must demonstrate approval by the city, which is, at this point in the city, automatic, and the county, and it's my understanding this action before the board is predicated on the county approval.
Okay.
Those are the general requirements under policy 705.1.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. And in your opinion, does this LRTA application meet those requirements? Because I know a bunch of us had concerns, so I'm curious what the professional opinion is.
It's my opinion that the application meets the requirements of policy 705.1.
Okay, I thank you for that. Now, my concern is, if I recall correctly, we had a discussion on whether or not this was a truly blighted area. Am I recalling that correctly? Ms. Kalida is nodding her head. So how do we determine, is it an opinion that it's a blighted area, or is there a legal definition that we apply to make sure this is a blighted area? Because that is a concern of mine, and I know some of my colleagues.
Well, under the LRTA statute, the municipality creates the LRTA district, and this municipality has designated essentially the entire city as blighted because the approval process for the city is automatic. So it is the municipality's determination that governs here. It's my understanding the city is considering some amendments to that ordinance, but at this point, the current process remains in place. So by the city's policy and its ordinance, this area qualifies.
Not happy, but thank you. That's all for now. Thank you, Mrs. Wren.
Ms. Kalida?
Yeah, I would just say that, bad legislation or policy on the fault of one governing body does not mean that we must follow suit. These are their guidelines for voting, as stated in the policy. Though I think we've all, we've had this conversation, City Council has had this conversation about, the entire district or the entire city of Pittsburgh is not blighted. That is a false statement and unnecessary. I mean, my concerns on the floor had a lot more to do with the item that was pulled today, and as far as any tax abatements for housing are concerned. But I just wanted to, this is, I just want to make that statement that, we just because we have bad policy in one place doesn't mean we need to follow suit. So, thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Kalida. Are there any other questions or comments about this one agenda item? Okay. If there are no further questions or concerns, we have a motion second for roll call vote on the committee report on business, finance, and minority business enterprises. Don't all speak at once. Thank you, Ms. Kalida. Thank you, Dr. Holly. Mr. Weiss, may we please have a roll call vote on the report on business, finance, and minority business enterprises?
Mr. Carter?
Yes, on the report as a whole, and I'm going to abstain on 12.07.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes, on the report as a whole. I'm going to abstain on 1207.
Ms. Falls?
Yes.
Dr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mrs. Kalida?
Yes, on the report as a whole, abstain on 12.07.
Mrs. Kennedy?
Reluctantly, yes on the report.
Mr. Dean?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mrs. Wren?
Yes.
Report's approved. The entire report's approved unanimously. 1207 is approved, 6 yes, 3 abstentions.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. We'll now move on to the Human Resource Report, item 13.01, that includes Addendum A, submitted by Ms. Sylvia Wilson, chairperson, and her committee. Are there any questions or comments on the report? If there are no questions or comments, may we have a motion and a second for a roll call vote on the Human Resource Report that includes Addendum A? Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Thank you, Ms. Falls. Mr. Weiss, may we please have a roll call vote on the Human Resource Report, including Addendum A?
Ms. Carter?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Ms. Falls?
Yes.
Dr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mrs. Kalida?
Yes, on the report as a whole, I have to abstain on payments authorized, number 10. That's on page 34.
Mrs. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Dean?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes on the report as a whole. On item U, number 6, abstain.
Mrs. Wren?
Yes.
Report's approved.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. We'll now move on to items 16.01, 16.02, and 16.03, the Financial and Controller's Report for the month ending August 2019, and the EBE report for the month of September. Are there any questions or comments on these reports? Item 7.1 is a new business item, a grant award from the Heinz Endowments for Pittsburgh Public Schools Strategic Framework Appropriation Fund. Are there any comments or questions on this item? Dr. Hawley?
Yes, thank you. I want to say thank you to the Heinz Endowment and to the district central office, Human Resources Superintendent's Office, for bringing this before us, this new business item forward. I am excited to see that we will be working with our paras and helping them to reach their goal in becoming teachers in our schools. It's wonderful when we have people that have the experience. They already have the experience. Now they'll be able to use that experience along with other educational opportunities to help our students. And I just want to thank everyone who brought this forward so that we can service our children as effectively as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hawley. Couldn't agree more.
I forgot to say the PFT too. Thank you. Sorry, PFT.
Thank you to the PFT as well.
They made a big contribution here. Thank you.
Well said, Dr. Hawley. Ms. Kennedy?
First, I'd like to echo Dr. Hawley's comments. She is right. She's got it 100% correct. And as some people know, I was not willing to vote for 8.12 unless there was a dedicated funding source. And I made that known loud and clear to administration. And between, I think maybe it was a week's time, they were able to give me a dedicated funding source. So I couldn't be happier because I believe the para-to-teacher program will be very valuable to our students and not to mention to these participants. But also, so I'd like to give an extra big thank you to Heinz Endowment for making this possible. Thank you.
Ms. Wilson.
Thank you. I too echo what has been said previously, but also just to make sure that people are aware that when there's calls for diversity in our teaching force, it isn't that many people are coming out of colleges of education that are minorities. So being able to tap into our own resources, our own people who are already hired here, it's a wonderful way of adding diversity to our staff, in addition to our program at Brashear High School that we are training our own students to become teachers. So when we have difficult situations in finding diverse population for teaching here in the city, we can find ways to grow them ourselves. So I think it's wonderful that the PFT, along with the Heinz Endowments and the school district, are coming together to make this possible. So thank everyone involved.
Well said, Ms. Wilson. Mr. Udine?
Thank you. I just wanted to briefly clarify that we have abbreviated paraprofessional to para. The public may not know what we're talking about when we just call it para. We are training paraprofessionals to become teachers, and in the process are increasing the number of minority teachers that will be available in our classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Udine. Ms. Edwards?
I also want to congratulate Mr. Harris, his staff, Heinz Endowment, and the PFT for moving forward on diversity after a week where a report came out with many disparities for African Americans. Mr. Harris came up with a way to make the program work, and thank you.
It's pretty safe to say we're all very excited to see this program moving forward. And if there are no further questions and comments, may we have a motion, a second, for a roll call vote on this new business item, item number 17.01.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Mr. Weiss, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Carter? Mr. Carter? Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Ms. Falls?
Yes.
Dr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mrs. Kalida?
Yes.
Mrs. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Udine?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mrs. Wren?
Yes.
Item is approved 8-0.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Item 17.02 is a new business item for voting on the PSBA delegates. That's the Pennsylvania School Board Association. Are there any questions or comments on this item?
This is a resolution. The votes were cast for these PSBA officers: President-elect Art Lewinowitz, Vice President David Hahn, PSBA Insurance Trust, Kathy Swope at seat 1, seat 2, Mark B. Miller, Secretaries Forum, Beth Ann Ziegler, Crystal Mance, and Jamie Lynn Zimmerowski. The board votes on these annually. So motion will be in order to adopt the resolution under this item of new business. So there should be a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Edwards, second by Ms. Falls. Mr. Weiss, may we have a motion and a roll may we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Carter? Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Ms. Falls?
Yes.
Dr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mrs. Kalida?
Yes.
Mrs. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Udine?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mrs. Wren?
Yes.
Item is approved 8-0.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Are there any announcements to be brought before us this evening that do not require a legislative vote? Dr. Hawley.
Thank you, Mrs. Wren. I'd like to say thank you to I can't remember his name, I'm so sorry, the science supervisor, and Dr. Hamlet and Mrs. Jenkins for the professional development activity we had last week with Discovery Learning. We had a whole team of STEAM professionals throughout Allegheny County that joined us to teach us more about how we can enhance the sciences with our students. And it was a wonderful afternoon. My hope, however, is that some of the principals, even though the district was only working with our STEAM schools, my hope is that we are going to look at some of the principles that are coming out of our discovery learning and put those principles to work in some of our other schools. Again, one of the major principles was to talk about in-servicing, giving teachers professional development so that they can service children. And everything else was really secondary to the teacher in the classroom. So I'm hoping that we'll look at some of that work that they're doing, not to take it away from the STEAM schools, of course, but some of the other principles that are a part of the program to be used for some of our other schools as well. I'd also like to say thank you to Lakeshore for their wonderful work in giving flexible seating and different types of seating for our youngest learners at 2 of our schools. I'm always going to look at Mrs. Capretta on that because you know how I am about flexible seating. But I want to say they're wonderful, wonderful environments for our young children. And I'm hoping that we can get more of that type of furniture for some of our other schools. Right now, they're at Beechwood and they're at Weil. But I'd like to see that expanded to some of our other schools as well. So I want to thank Carol Barone Martin for getting that grant. Kudos to her for doing that, and also to our own department for writing the grant and getting that those wonderful activities and seatings for our youngest learners. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Holly. Are there any other comments? Ms. Falls?
Thank you, Ms. Wren. I would also like to thank the Pennsylvania School Board Association for the workshop that they invited us to, I don't know, last week or the week before. And 4 board members, in addition to Dr. Hamlet, went to that workshop. And the purpose of it was to have the transition and give some key points and work with us so that we can make the transition with our 3 new board members coming on in December. And one of the biggest points that I really valued from it, many points, and we're going to be doing a lot of work from now till then, is that they enforced over and over again that the board is a team of 10. And I believe that all of us on the board, and if I speak for someone inadvertently, I'm sorry, but I do believe that we believe 9 plus 1 is the superintendent. So we work congeal as a team, and we have learned many things from that workshop that we'll all be putting together. And I hope there's much more to come, and I'm sure there is. So thank you to Pennsylvania School Board Association. And again, lately we've had quite a few military deaths, and I'd like to recognize those families and loved ones of those soldiers of whatever brand of service they were in, branch of the service. And also, we've also had remains from veterans of many, many years come back home, and the families can put their loved ones to rest. So 17 years I've heard, and 20, and et cetera. And I just think it's a remarkable situation because their hearts must have just been broken, and now they can put their loved ones to rest. And so again, thank you to our military for this wonderful country, the past, the present, and the future. Thank you, Ms. Wren.
Thank you, Ms. Falls. Ms. Edwards?
And I also want to give thanks to the United Way and their Be There attendance campaign for Beechwood, Langley, Schiller, and Perry. They actually are helping them with their endeavors to improve attendance. And just a remark also, after reading the public source article on the disparities for Blacks in Pittsburgh, that really did make me upset because I'm one, but I work hard for what I want. So taxpayer dollars are out there and they have no color on them. So for a group of people to be held down for any reason is wrong. So I'd like to look at the policies in the Pittsburgh Public Schools as an institution, Dr. Hamlet, to make sure that we are not part of the problem, but part of the solution. There are many laws against discrimination. They go all the way back to the Civil Rights Act of 1964. If those laws are being violated, then we should find a way to correct them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Edwards. Ms. Kennedy?
Thank you. We have many partners. Lots of them we recognize by accepting donations and grants, but we have other partners that are in the background. And one partner in the background that I would like to highlight tonight is Pittsburgh City Council. And I don't say this lightly because people don't realize the cooperation that goes on for various issues that are shared, or an issue or something that one group is doing that will impact the other group. Just last night, Corey O'Connor, who is the councilman for where I live, had a meeting about an upcoming road closure, and several weeks ago, he had notified me so that I could get someone from the district there, and Dr. Hamlet, followed through on that, and Ms. Capretta let me know who was there. And I know there was another transportation-related meeting last night, too. But upcoming, starting tomorrow night, is something that both Corey O'Connor and Erica Strasburger, council members for Districts 5 and 8, are holding, because Shady Avenue traffic is an issue. Anybody who has used it at any point will agree. So they're having meetings from 6 to 8 p.m. Now, tomorrow night's meeting is about from 5th Avenue to Forbes, is going to where the concentration, and that will be held at Children's Institute. The meeting on October 10th will be from Forbes Avenue to Tilbury, and that will be hosted by Alderdice. And both meetings are 6 to 8, and I'm sure if you can only go to one meeting, even if it's about the other half, not the part, I'm sure, I can't believe they wouldn't take comments and your points, but I think it's really important that we support these joint efforts, especially when we're invited to the table, because there's nothing worse than being omitted from that table. And I know during the summer I was contacted about getting about setting up something at Alderdice, and I put them in someone from Councilman O'Connor's staff in touch with Dr. McCoy, and everything went from there. I was able to step back. So, and I know I'm not the only board member who has been able to have good partnerships with the respective council members. So I want to say on behalf of all of us, I'd like to, as long as my board member colleagues agree, I'd like to recognize this great partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy. And I'll be involved in those meetings as well. Dr. Holly.
I forgot, I was just at a meeting this afternoon at Obama, and I just want to say thank you. I was so proud of the principal, Mrs. Colbert, and Mr. Wilson, or is it Williams? Mr. Williams, the CTE tech teacher. It was just a wonderful event. We had over 40 plus visitors at the school to visit our makerspace. They were so impressed with what is going on in Pittsburgh Public Schools, and especially in that environment. And when I talked to them about some of the other things that we were doing here, they were in awe about how we were helping all students reach those STEAM objectives. So I just want to say thank you to Mrs. Colbert, Thank you to Dr. Walters, because he's the one who actually spearheaded that space, along with wonderful parents. The parents were like deeply involved in the work, along with some foundation groups. But that's where, talk about 9+1. This was like a whole community came together to build this space. And I just want to say thank you to the district for supporting it, of course. CTE made a major effort as well. But we were really proud to see these people from all over the country, basically, there to see what Pittsburgh was doing in terms of technology.
Thank you. Ms. Foss.
Ms. Wren, thank you. I just want to make a little correction. Indeed, the PSBA did recognize 9+1 as being a team, but Dr. Hamlet and I and the others have had conversation that we believe it's 9+1+, because we couldn't do what we need to do without Dr. Hamlet's cabinet and other leaders in the district. So my math says 9+1+, and that equals the team. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Wren.
Thank you, Ms. Falls. If there are no further comments or announcements, may I have a motion and a second to adjourn? Thank you, Ms. Falls. Thank you, Dr. Holly. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, same side. This meeting is adjourned. Safe journeys. Good night.